So, and whoever comes, they'll just come in and be here with us. So, I'm Dr. Sally Melgren. I'm not an endocrinologist, I'm an ophthalmologist. But as an ophthalmologist, we see a lot of problems with diabetes and eyes. So, and it's very real to me. And my father was a type 1 diabetic. And so I saw it from the the home side and the clinical side. And I want to introduce my friends that are helping me. This is our sous chef, Katja, and our film IT person, Mickey. And then Brenda just went and sat down in the back, and Bruce, our good friends that are helping us this morning. So we're just all a big happy family, and I want to have this be as informal and interactive as it can be. So if you have a question, I welcome it. And we're just going to talk about how to lower your blood sugar. I was telling a bad story on myself how I had to go in and get my blood tested, and I was doing surgery all day, and I was so hungry. It was like 2, and I'd had a good breakfast at 6 a.m., but I hadn't eaten since then. And in the lobby of the surgery center, or the surgery room, was all these cupcakes with icing as high as the cupcake, right? And I never eat things like that. I don't buy them for my house, and I, usually don't eat them. But there it was. I was tempted, right? And I was hungry. What did I do? I ate it. And then I went over and got my blood tested, and it was over 200. I got a lecture from my doctor. But I realized how easy it is for us to just shoot our blood pressure up, So the next month I thought I was being really good, but it was the same situation. So I ate a popsicle, a lime popsicle, and it was over 100. I got another lecture. So the next time I went in to see the doctor, I fasted and I exercised in the morning, and it was only like 95. I thought it'd be lower than that, So we all have to watch our blood sugar, every single one of us. I'm delighted to know there's at least one diabetic in here, because this is most important for you. My father was diabetic, and he didn't want to do anything as far as lifestyle went. He would take his insulin, but he didn't cooperate. He ended up losing his vision to about like this. He lost some toes. He ended up on renal dialysis. He had peripheral neuropathy. He had every complication a diabetic can get. So one of my good friends that is an ophthalmologist like myself, he says, I tell people when they have diabetes, you're going to die a slow, painful death. And I said, that's horrible. And he said, but it's true. If you don't monitor your blood sugar, that is what happens. Your circulation diminishes in your eyes, your kidneys, your peripheral vessels, and all over your body, your brain, and you die premature. And so it's good to know what we can do to lower our blood sugar, and it's not hard. And for type 2 diabetes, you can completely reverse it by lifestyle. That's a well-known fact. You can get rid of your diabetes in just a couple weeks. Dr. Ng is a good friend of mine. He was here. We had him here, and he talked to us about health. And he shared with me some examples of people that came through Weimar. It's a clinic where you do lifestyle medicine. And a man came in, way overweight, 200 pounds, and his blood sugar was off, his cholesterol was off, everything was elevated. On the program of a lifestyle change that we're going to talk about today, in 3 weeks he had lost almost 13 pounds. His blood sugar was back to normal, and he could start coming off his medications. Lifestyle is powerful. It starts changing within just a week. In just days, you can feel the effect. So what is this lifestyle about? Have you figured it out? Well, yeah, it's choices. So one researcher said that genetics loads the gun. Hear this gun that's going to kill you, right? And genetics loads it, but it's lifestyle that pulls the trigger and makes it a fait accompli, right? So we can have genes that set us up to have a certain disease or a certain anything, but the lifestyle we choose can turn genes on and off. Let me tell you about the little yellow mouse. I wish I had brought a screen with pictures, but you'll just have to have a good imagination and think about it with me. So they bred these mice to study diabetes, right? And they are little fat mice with yellow fur, and they just look so cute and cuddly. You just want to love them. They're so cute. And they study diabetes on these mice because they have a tendency, they're genetically set up to get diabetes, to get metabolic syndrome, which we'll talk about, and diabetes. And if you take those mice and feed them a regular lab chow for mice, in one generation they'll turn into a little skinny brown mouse just like the others. They have the exact same genetics, but it's different lifestyle that's making the difference. So what that means is we can select the genes that are expressed by our lifestyle. So in other words, if we make bad choices, a certain set of genes are expressed. If we make good choices, another set of genes are expressed. And we can choose to be healthy and make good choices. And we all need encouragement in that category. Even myself, I shouldn't have eaten that cupcake. I don't do it anymore. I haven't done it again. But, we need encouragement. And the more we know, the better choices we'll make. So, today we're kind of concentrating on lentils. I have my little showpiece here, lentils, right? We made a lentil soup that we want you all to taste, and we can demonstrate, and a lentil loaf and some lentil burgers. Why am I talking about lentils? Because beans are like the perfect food for diabetics. Beans are a complex food. They have protein and carbohydrate in them, hardly any fat, and that's the important thing. Now, before I talk about that, let me talk about fat and carbohydrates and protein, okay? If you're trying to lower the number of calories you're taking in, what's the best way to do it? Fat has 9 calories per gram. Protein and carbs have 4 to 5 calories per gram. That's almost half, right? So if you're trying to limit your calories, what's the easiest way to do it? Cut back the fat. And that's what this diet is kind of about. Because if you're eating beans and carbs, proteins and carbs, you're getting half the calories as you would if you're eating fat. And our lifestyle in America, we are so inclined to eat a high-fat diet. Everything you see in advertising, a double cheese, double burger, right? It's got 2 patties, 2 cheeses, and then they add bacon on top of that, right? That's a lot of fat. We don't think of it that way. We see the pictures, we get used to it. We think, well, that's normal. That's really a fancy burger, and it looks good. It's tempting. But that's so overdone, so high in fat. So that's what we're trying to do. Push the carbs and the proteins and eliminate the fat as much as possible. There are 3 essential fatty acids, so you don't eliminate all the fat or your brain will really suffer. So we got to talk about the good fats like avocado. That's a wonderful fat. And nuts. I have behind me some cookbooks, and this one in particular is a really yummy one. This is a gal who just wanted to make her food taste like normal food should taste. She uses a lot of cashews for her creamy sauces, cheese sauces, and you put a little garlic and onion powder and lemon in there, and it tastes pretty good. So we're going to talk about that later, and I have some recipes out there for you. But I wanted to talk about lentils, beans, black beans, pinto beans, kidney beans. The Latin American people, they live longer than the average population. And they think it's because of the bean consumption. Beans are so good for us. And they have an effect for diabetics. Like if you eat beans at lunch, when you check your blood sugar after dinner, it's going to be lower after dinner because you ate beans at lunch. It's called the second meal effect. Beans have something in them that makes, instead of your blood sugar having a high glycemic spike like potatoes or white rice or some sugar, it does the other. It flattens it out. So that's why we're talking about beans today, because that's the perfect thing for a diabetic to do. Why? It's 1 out of every 8 Americans has diabetes. that's a lot. And our weight's getting out of control too. And there's a thing called metabolic syndrome or insulin resistance that happens before we get diabetes. So now I'm kind of talking about type 2 diabetes, which is completely reversible. It has to do with the amount of intake of calories that we're doing and the amount of exercise that we're doing. And it's in excess of the calories and not enough exercise. And we're all subject to that in our world with computer screens and, you've got to figure out what's going on in the world, right? You're studying, you're on a computer, you're doing this, you're doing that, but we're not so much outside like we used to be. We have to make an effort to get active, stay active. So we're going to make some really interesting recommendations for you that they're wonderful if we can follow it, and myself included. I need to do it too. Sometimes I tell myself, okay, instead of relaxing here after I ate my meal, I need to get up and I need to walk around, and so we'll talk about that. But anyhow, metabolic syndrome. So if you're overweight, if your cholesterol's up, if your blood sugar's up, you're tending toward insulin resistance. What is insulin resistance? Insulin is a hormone in our body that opens a door in the walls of the cell so the glucose can get in and the cell can metabolize the glucose. So if those doors don't open, the cells are starving for glucose, but glucose is running around in the bloodstream and damaging the bloodstream and damaging the body. And that's what insulin resistance is. So all the things that we're going to talk about today are to help increase your insulin sensitivity so that insulin works. Like my father, even though he was a type 1 diabetic, if we went on a ski trip and he was, snow skiing all day long, you're in the line, you're busy all day long. If you snow ski, it's intense physical activity. He didn't need his insulin. The exercise somehow stimulated his body to use his insulin. And that's true for all of us. So you all have that in guidelines for managing diabetes right in front of you, right? And you also got another sheet called Saying Goodbye to Diabetes, Hello to a Healthier You, right? And that has a list of sites that you can go to, and I want to go over that. Lifeandhealth.org, Say Goodbye to Diabetes by Dr. Wes Youngberg. I highly recommend his site. He has an online course. It says Diabetes Undone, a 21-day challenge. So you go on there and it directs you what to eat and what to do step by step. So if any of you are interested in that, you can just go do it yourself by doing that. He also has a book. I didn't bring it. I was going to bring it. It says Say Goodbye to Diabetes. That is very helpful that you can read and refer to. Then there's Dr. John McDougall, an old friend of mine. He's been at this for over 40 years. He wrote a book called The McDougall Plan. When I read it, I wrote him a letter and I said, you deserve the Nobel Prize because if we did what you're saying, we would decrease healthcare costs like crazy. And it was basically go to a plant-based diet with low fat. And he has wonderful, this is his wife's cookbook, the new McDougall cookbook. And if you're really looking to lose weight and avert metabolic syndrome, this is the book for you because it's strictly low fat. I'm not saying you should live like this long term, but if you want to lose weight, this is a perfect resource and to avoid diabetes. Then there's Dr. Joel Fuhrman. Have you heard of him? He's down there. drfuhrman.com, and he has a book out called Eat to Live. One of my friends said, that lifestyle stuff, it's just a bummer, so you can't have any fun, right? Is that sometimes the way we think of it? But really, the lifestyle is so that we can live, so we can enjoy all the fun. Because if we're not alive, we're not going to enjoy it, right? Then PCRM.org. Oh, I didn't put his name down there. Dr. Neil Barnard. That's a typo I meant to do. Anyhow, he has a 21-day weight loss kickstart program as well. And he's very into preventing studies on animals and, preventing suffering of animals, which is a good thing. And the next one on the list is Dr. Hans Deal. And he's been famous for his CHIP program, Cardiac Health Improvement Program, and they go to different towns and they involve people in the lifestyle and watch their cardiac risk factors just plummet and their health improve. And he has a book called Health Power, Healthy by Choice, Not by Chance. These are choices we have to make and do. And then Dr. T. Colin Campbell's the one at the very bottom. He's a researcher. He's not a medical doctor, but he has a website called eatplantbased.com. And you've got to hear his, and he wrote the book, The Future of Nutrition and the China Study. And I'll tell you a little bit about him. He was a typical omnivore. He was doing a study on animals, and he was involved in a lot of different things, finding the dioxin chemical that was killing chickens, and then he did this famous China study which involved human beings. But he read, when he was a student, he read a research paper where they gave 20% animal protein to rats, and 100% of them got cancer or were developing cancer and died prematurely. And they fed 5% animal protein to the rats, and none of them got cancer, and none of them died prematurely. And he showed it to his mentor, and he said, "What do you think about this study?" And his mentor said, "Where did you ever see a study that's 100% on both sides? That's ridiculous. Forget about it." Well, when he got out and had his own lab, he did the studies, and he found the same was true. And then he did the China study and found that in people it's true that a high-protein diet. Have you heard that we need a high-protein diet? Have you heard that anywhere? Does almost everything you buy say, hey, this is great, it has that many grams of protein, right? Yeah, we've been indoctrinated to think we need a lot of protein, but that's really not the truth. We need enough protein. And all plants have all the essential amino acids. They may be low in one or another. So maybe if you ate only tomatoes, you'd get an amino acid deficiency, but who's going to eat only tomatoes, right? And you've heard that you have to combine your vegetables and the beans and the rice and all that. That isn't true either. If we just eat a healthy diet of variety, we'll be fine. So those are resources for you to look into. Yes, Jessica. What if you have someone that doesn't like beans? What do? You've got to educate this. There's other things you can do. Quinoa and rice and corn and wheat, all those things. They have protein too. But you can learn, I think we can change our habits. I have a lentil soup today. I want you to try it, see if you can tolerate it. Our person who doesn't like beans, we'll try it, right? All right. So what is this lifestyle change that we're talking about to help you? So if you're a type 2 diabetic, you can eliminate your diabetes. If you're a type 1 diabetic, you can control your sugar better, use less insulin, and feel better. So it's a whole plant food diet, eaten whole. When we eat wheat bread, if it's white and you can crumble it up into a little pasty ball, that is not a whole food. We all know that, right? That whole wheat ought to be heavy and have the germ and have the bran in it, which is the fiber. Fiber is a really important element of plants that helps slows the absorption of the calories. Your body, you have to chomp through the plant walls to release the contents, and that fiber helps hold on to some of the nutrients and some of the sugars and draws it out through your body. So whole plant foods are what we need to eat, and we need to avoid meat, fish, chicken, eggs, and dairy products. Why? Because they're concentrated products. They have high fat. They're almost 50% fat. Low fat milk is 50% fat, right? It doesn't say that on the carton. It says low fat, and you think, oh yeah, good, that's healthy. No, it's still 50% fat. It's a concentrated food. Milk is to make a little baby calf double its weight in 45 days. How many of us want to double our weight in 45 days? That's not on the plan, right? We're the only species that is never weaned and drinks milk from another species. Think about it. Milk is a luxury food. It's a luxury food that we should partake on only special occasions, not every day. So we want to eat your vegetables and your salads first because they're light and they're filled with water, and they'll help inhibit the absorption of the carbs that you eat in the meal. It helps with the digestion. And in this book, it's over here if you want it, How Not to Diet. Here, Mickey, I'll give you a picture of How Not to Diet. All right? By Dr. Michael Greger. Okay? He wrote a book that says How Not to Die, which is very good, and this is How Not to Diet. So this is to eat so that you don't have to diet, right? In there, one of his secrets for eating not to diet is to eat foods that are a lot of water. They have a lot of water and that are heavy. We have carrots and parsnips cut up over there, and they're heavy, but they're almost 80% water. So when you're eating it, you're satisfied and you're full, but there's not a lot of calories in it. Okay? And complex carbohydrates are what our body runs on, but not refined. I'm talking about the bread that goes into a little white squished ball. We want to eat, the bread should be heavy, and it's best if we could make it at home from wheat berries. You buy the little wheat berries and you grind it up in a wheat grinder or a coffee grinder, and then make your own bread with that. And that's really healthy, and you're getting everything. That the germ is in there, the vitamins are in there. Limit the amount of potatoes, pasta, and brown rice. But I want to say something about that. I have a bunch of potato recipes over here because we feel like guilty if we eat potatoes. I don't know if you do. I do, with the way, kind of the understanding is like it's a white food. It's not healthy for us, right? But potatoes are very healthy. When they had the famines in Ireland, that's all people had to eat, and they lived. Potatoes have vitamin C in them. They're very nutritious, and we can live with them. But it's what we put on them that's the problem, or what we fry them in that's the problem, right? So I have some recipes over there where you can make mashed potatoes and feel good about eating it, okay? And potatoes and carrots and different things. Using legumes, if you can tolerate them, are wonderful. They're a low glycemic index food. And you can eat fruit, but you want to eat fruit earlier in the day because it's high sugar. So eat fruit for breakfast, and then don't eat it the rest of the day if you're trying to avoid your blood sugar going up. No dried or cooked fruit because it's concentrated. No fruit juices. No snacking in between meals. And then here's something that doesn't have to do with eating. We want to walk at least 15 minutes immediately after each meal. I went and visited a family that does that, and they were plant-based cooks, and they'd feed you the best meal you could ever desire, and then they'd say, okay, come on, let's go. We're all going to go walking. We went walking, and it felt good to do that. And it teaches your body to start utilizing those calories you just put in, right? Exercise at least a total of 60 minutes a day. That's a lot. I'm not doing that, but I should try to do that. And 15 minutes after each meal, or 20 minutes after each meal. And so if you eat three meals a day and you do 20 minutes after each meal, there's your 60 minutes. Boom, done. Right? That's not too hard. If you're going to be a plant food eater, you've got to take B12. And they come in these little chalky-like pink tablets that taste good. And you put it under your tongue, let it get exposed to your saliva, and absorb it that way. One of the most important things a diabetic can do is not drink sugary drinks. We have some wonderful drinks that we found that are herb drinks that are sweetened with erythritol. We're going to give you all a taste of that in just a little bit and experience that. But sugary drinks is just like drinking pure sugar. So it's just like, there goes your blood sugar, out of control. I had a patient who told me he lost 20 pounds. And I said, how'd you do that? And he goes, I just quit drinking Coke. That easy. Benjamin, you have a question. It's just sugar and water and flavoring and carbonation. That doesn't do anything for our nutrition, but make us tend toward diabetes. Yeah. So there's some herbal drinks we found that are really wonderful. They're sweetened with erythritol. They're actually tolerable. We want you to taste them and give you ideas where you could make teas. You can make tea at home so that you have something to drink, because sometimes you want something other than water. You know, if you drank your water for the day, you want something that's yummy. We have one. Well, I should get them out and just show you what they are. And then, Brenda, maybe we could pass them out while we're talking about it. Do you want to get the other flavors out? So I'm gonna talk about this one, turmeric radiance. It has 17 calories. This has 17 calories. It's quite delicious. Have you heard that turmeric's good for your inflammation in your body? And inflammation is one of the main causes of disease of any kind.
How many servings is that bottle?
This is one serving, and it has 17 calories per serving. Yeah. I just found this at Albertsons, and I'm crazy about it. It's called Gold Thread Plant-Based Tonic. Plant-based tonic. Let me read what's in it. Filtered water, lime, turmeric, ginger, orange peel, lemongrass, lemon verbena, cinnamon, cardamom, coriander, turmeric powder, Madagascar bourbon vanilla bean. That's not bourbon. It's the vanilla bean. Mace, cloves, erythritol, and monk fruit extract. You want to try some? We're going to let y'all try some. Let me do this one first since I'm advertising it.
Yeah, and I just opened that one. Maybe we should open all of them.
Yeah, let's. Do you want to try them all? We can try them all. Green minerals. Let's see what this says is in it. Filtered water, green mineral proprietary herb blend. It has nettle, oats, alfalfa. My husband was just reading to me how alfalfa plants send their roots 30 feet into the ground and get all the minerals and bring them up. They're very healthy. And I was saying, are they saying we should eat alfalfa? And he's going, yeah. So this has alfalfa in it. Rose hips, lemongrass, raspberry leaf, red clover, erythritol, chlorophyll, and monk fruit extract. Anyhow, we're going to let you...
Can some of those bother the
It says they aid digestion. The turmeric one says it aids digestion. But, we're all different. Like, Bruce is sensitive to cloves. He shouldn't have the one that has cloves in it. So... Okay, where were we? So avoiding soft drinks. There's other alternatives. So you can make tea, cold teas, hot teas that are healthy and increase our nutrition rather than detract from our nutrition. Jesse?
The newest thing out there, instead of the sodas, what about that thing that carbonates your at home? What about that?
Well, it's my understanding. She's asking, what about carbonated drinks at home?
Because they make something where you can put water and carbonate it yourself.
Yeah, my understanding that carbonation isn't really good for us. Yeah, so it's not really a nutritional additive. It's a detractive.
Trying to break yourself of the soda habit.
I don't know if you're a cat getting your tail caught off. Do you want it inch by inch or you want it just once? I don't know. I think I'd rather just once. Bruce?
carbonation, the way your body gets rid of it, is it depletes your calcium in your system.
We were.
It out of your bones, whatever, you get the calcium.
I will say that. Bruce is talking about what he told me a week ago, that when you eat a carbonated drink or drink a carbonated drink, it has to pH balance and it draws calcium out of your bones. So it's unhealthy. Also, that kind of goes with the too much protein statement that I made earlier. Let's talk about that. We all know we can store fat, right? We don't have any question about that. And we all know we can store glucose, in the form of glycogen in our muscles and in our liver. And that's why long distance runners and athletes, they carbo load so they've got all that energy to keep them through their run, right? But do we store protein? No, we don't store protein. And what happens if we eat more protein in a day than our body uses? It has to go out through our kidneys as urea, and it's the same thing as the carbonation. It has to be pH balanced, and it draws calcium out of our body. And so it demineralizes our skeleton. It doesn't happen all at once, but if you're on a high protein diet all the time, you're going to weaken your skeleton long term. And you're going to increase your risk of cancer. That book I talked about by T. Colin Campbell, China study, proved that if you eat a high animal protein diet, you increase your risk of cancer. So I feel so bad because the media and a lot of the big corporations that sell these products, they push it, they advertise it. You need your protein, you need your protein. Well, we do, but we just need the right amount, and plants are the right amount of protein. Eat slowly. This is when, to enjoy our food, we have to have it in our mouth. It's crunchy, it's chewy, we're enjoying it. Why just gulp it down? Why not enjoy it? And also, when you masticate it well like that, the saliva is starting the digestion in our mouth, and it aids our digestion too to chew slowly. So we can teach ourselves to enjoy our food that way. And then it talks about checking your blood sugar. That's more germane to the diabetics, and you can read that there. So check your blood sugar so you know where you are. My cousin got one of those, what's it called, lifestyle, freestyle blood sugar monitors, and he said it changed his life because when he ate something, then he knew what his blood sugar was doing, and he could say, wow, I can't eat that. That's really affecting me. So that's really a good thing if you're a diabetic, to get these monitors. So are there any questions yet?
What plants do you get the protein?
That's such a good question. I wish I had a screen that I could show you. But asparagus and broccoli are really high in protein. But all vegetables, Jim, have the correct balance of the amino acids. They just might be low in one or another, but they have them in there. Rice has protein. Wheat has protein. Quinoa has protein. Beans have a lot of protein. So we're not low on protein or at a negative state with protein if we're eating a plant-based diet. We're getting all we need.
My wife, she's 70 pounds. She eats rice every day, lots of it. She doesn't get fat at all. I've heard people say, oh no, the rice is fattening. Yeah.
Tell the Asian people that, right? Tell Asia that. Yeah.
70 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's a healthy food. It's best if we can eat brown rice. Does she eat brown rice or white rice?
No, both.
Both. She eats both.
Yeah, what's it called in California?
Oh, Lindbergh rice. Oh, let me say something about that. Rice has been grown in places where they have used arsenic as in the pesticides. In a lot of places, some of our ground is perverted with arsenic. But the California Lundberg rice is the best. They tested it, and it came out the best. So when you see that Lundberg rice, you can feel safe that that's a good rice to get. And our lentil loaf that you're going to taste has the wild, I think I brought it. Let me see if I have it. Do you see a bag with Lundberg rice? Oh, I guess I didn't bring it, but anyhow, it's a mixture of wild rice and brown and white, and it's really delicious. I really like it.
Of course, Walmart does not have the right kind of rice.
I bought this at Albertsons, the Lundberg.
Don't buy it at Walmart. Don't buy anything at Walmart.
Brenda?
That you should boil your rice for a few minutes and then drain it and then cook it. That kind of takes some of the
I haven't heard that. She's asking, should we boil the rice a little bit and then drain it and then replace the water and then cook it? That might help. Water's the perfect solvent, so that might help. I don't know the scientific facts on that.
I'm here
Jim?
for Eve also, because she couldn't make it.
Uh-huh.
But she definitely wants the book. How can we get that book? The book that she got
Oh,
from church.
I have 5 of these.
You want to buy them.
I have 5 of the How Not to Die cookbook, How Not to Diet cookbook. And at church I showed a whole bunch of wonderful pictures of the food that she makes. It looks very delicious, and so I have 5 of them to sell. If anybody wants them, they're $15. Okay?
Also, there's a lot of vegan recipes on Pinterest.
There are so many recipes, not just Pinterest, but all these sites that I gave you on these papers. You can go to these websites and get all kinds of recipes. Just type in vegan and you'll come up with Melanie McDonald. She has recipes, Naturally Gourmet, and McDougall's Cookbook. There are so many. We could just do recipe after recipe after recipe. And these are just ideas. We just did a few recipes so you can see, but you can put your own spices and your own taste on it. Like if you don't like lentils or beans, then you go some other route, you know? And sweet potatoes and things like that.
Those 2 books that you mentioned in church.
Yeah, what that was this one, How Not to Diet. That's the one I took the pictures from. Yeah, and then the new McDougall cookbook. Yeah. But that's this one. Are you talking about this one? Comfort Foods, Vegan Comfort Foods by Melanie McDonald. That's a great one. Her fettuccine Alfredo was... I don't have this to sell. You'd have to go online to get. This is my personal copy. You have to go online. So these are mine up here, but those are for sale. And then the recipes there. So we want to eat plant foods. You know, I don't know what your belief system is, but in the first book of the Bible, in Genesis, God tells us what He gave Adam and Eve to eat in the garden. There were fruit trees, nut trees, and that was their food, and grains, I think. And then after sin, He added the vegetables. But those were the foods we ate until the flood. So plant food is the original design of our body. The Creator ought to know what our fuel we need, right? Like I have a little ATV vehicle to ride around on the farm, right? And it runs on diesel. But somebody put gas in it, and it started smoking, man. It wasn't right. It wasn't running very well. We had to drain it out and put the correct fuel in it that it needed. And that's what we need to do. If we just follow the laws of our body, we will be healthy, and it won't be real hard. You don't have to really try too hard. If we eat the whole plants as they come out of the ground, and they're such a blessing. My friend Brenda has an apple tree, and she picked apples and gave me her apples, and they were so delicious. You know, and I didn't have to go to the grocery store and buy them, and every day I just cherished getting that little apple out and washing it and eating it for breakfast. It was a real joy. And we can all do that. We can plant an apple tree. I think your wife planted a bunch of apple trees, right? Not apple trees, trees. Fruit trees. 18 fruit trees. So she's going to be a busy girl, because I know my peach tree came in, and they all came in at once. And Brenda could tell us all about that. You've got to can them or dry them or freeze them, do something with them, because you have so much, or share them. Give them, Bruce says, give them away. Yeah, share them. And what a wonderful world it would be if we all did that. We would have so much in abundance. But anyhow, maybe it's time to eat a little bit. You want to sample our foods? And so lentils, this is good for lowering your blood sugar and satisfying your hunger. and maintaining a healthy, happy lifestyle. Okay, so now let's get them out and we'll put these down.
¿Tienen baños?
Sí, de hecho, ahí están.
It probably has a moderate amount.
Hi, Katia.
So not very much, because the lentils. I don't have the carbs on it though.
Y aquí tenemos la receta de la sopa, si la quieres. Sí.
What kind of soup is this?
That's lentil soup. It has parsnips and carrots and tomatoes.
Don't drop the camera.
Oh, okay, go for it.
Did you hear me?
Oh,
Don't
drop the camera? I'll let you do it. I won't do it.
Lentil loaves, 2 different types,
And it's low, that's low.
and lentil burgers, and lentil soup.
Lentil soup, because we're featuring lentils.
She found these at an Albertson store,
No fat or no
and you heard her read some of the
This one is
ingredients
no
on
fat.
some of them.
This one is no fat, this one's low fat. Yeah, this had pecans in it. And a little bit of
A little bit.
While you're eating,
He closed his eyes. Holy spray. He's allergic.
can I keep talking with you? Are you taking, oh, you're taking everybody eating.
Just a little bit, just fast.
This is my favorite color.
It is?
How did I find that?
Fate. How's our no bean person doing?
So what do you use in place of heavy cream?
Heavy cream, almond, they have almond creamer.
They do?
And you can make
They have lots of different
the
plant
Benton
creamers.
sisters have a cookbook that make whipped cream out of, you use
Chick-
gelatin, like you can use arrowroot or something that thickens. I'm blocking on the name of the other one. It's from kelp. It's from seaweed. Huh. Yeah, that can be pretty creamy too, right? I know somebody who puts that in their coffee. Not that we're advertising coffee, but they use it as a creamer. But she sets it up like a gelatin and then whips it like whipped cream, and she made her own wedding cake that way, and it was delicious. You wouldn't have known the difference.
She asked me what the white stuff was. Like it. He likes it.
Oh, Veganese. Albertsons had it. Did you like it? Yeah, it has a lighter flavor. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about what you're eating.
One thing you were talking about the whipped cream.
Wait.
In my Cook's magazine, this guy made it from those chickpea juice.
Right, aquafaba.
Yeah,
Aquafaba. Yeah, it's the juice from beans. It has protein in it, and then you can whip it like a meringue. Yeah, so maybe, that they can make whipped cream out of that. Aquafaba. Right?
I think it's like black salt. Can you get that at Albertsons?
No, I ordered mine online. Yeah, in this one book, and use the spinach, and then she uses a Indian salt. What's it called? It's a black salt that has kind of a sulfur flavor, and so it makes it kind of taste like the eggs. It's so good. That's in the vegan comfort cooking.
I can't find that black salt.
I had to order it online, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted. Yeah. Anyhow, you're eating lentil soup. It was supposed to be made with red lentils, but I couldn't find any red lentils in Roswell, and neither could Katya. So we made it with regular lentils. And it has parsnips, carrots, cilantro, onion, lemon juice, cloves, and instead of a bouillon cube, I used white miso. So, Gary?
What's the difference between the red lentil and the olive oil and the regular?
And the green lentil. The red lentil's flatter and it cooks up a lot faster and breaks up kind of. So it's kind of makes it more creamier and you kind of don't know there's a lentil in there. I could have fooled you on that one. But this one, no, the lentil's in there. Yeah, yeah. Aren't they good? Do you like it?
I love parsnips. I've seen
Yeah.
tons of recipes for like parsnip this, parsnip that, but I can't ever find them.
They were right next to the daikon radish, and I almost bought the daikon radish because they look so much alike. And the teller had to ask me, is this daikon radish? I said, no, it's parsnip.
The other thing that I've seen like tons of recipes for is like rutabaga, but I can't find that either.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with rutabaga. I don't do much with rutabaga. Yeah, yeah. So there were 2 lentil loaves, and Brenda asked, is it low fat? So the one that's here, this one, is completely low fat. There's no fat in there. That's out of the McDougall cookbook that I said if you want to lose weight, this is the way to go. These kind of recipes are no fat, super low fat. So higher weight loss. And this other one was my mother's recipe for lentil loaf, and it has a little bit of olive oil and it has pecans in it. Both these recipes are up here. And at the bottom of this one, the lentil loaf's on top, it has a sunflower oat loaf. So if you don't, there you go, Gary, sunflower oat loaf. You might like that better. That's without the lentils on the same page, okay? So just to give you an idea, and you can make your own, put your own flavoring in. You know, there's just an idea of how to make things. And there's so many different ways to do things nowadays. And like Jesse said, you can go online and just find all kinds of recipes to make whole plant food. Have a question? In the sandwich, it's veganese. Oh, the parsnip. The vegetable. Yeah, the spread on the bread is veganese. That's not low fat. It's called veganese. And I'll read to you what's in it. It's got expeller pressed canola oil, safflower oil, brown rice syrup, apple cider vinegar, soy protein, sea salt, mustard, flour, lemon juice. Veganese. Veganese. Yeah. Veganese. So it doesn't have eggs, but it's still a high-fat food. So just a little bit. Albertsons. You can make your own. Who said that? Yeah. Yeah, you can make your own mayonnaise. I was in Uruguay, and this little lady, she made mayonnaise right in front of me. She turned her blender on and just dripped the oil in, drip by drip by drip. She put a little carrot in it, and she made orange mayonnaise. And I think I don't know what kind of oil she was using, actually. But you could use any oil and do that, and you just aerate it, and it kind of starts getting like mayonnaise. It's not a health food.
I found a recipe from Inspired Taste, and it uses soy milk or agua fava and oil
For whipped cream?
for vegan mayo.
Oh, vegan mayo. Yeah, it's just oil, kind of aerated, hydrated, which isn't really good.
What was in the sandwiches?
That's this same lentil loaf just made as a burger, so just showing that you can make it into a burger. You could do the same with the other one too. It's just how you form it, and I just baked it on a baking pan and turned it over 20 minutes one side, 20 minutes the other side. Yeah. I have one I like better. It's made with oats and walnuts and parsley. Oh, it's really yummy. I almost made it, but I didn't have enough time. Which one? This one? This one? That's in Mary's. I think I have it right here. Yeah, it's in this one. Yeah, the new McDougall cookbook. No, no. The new McDougall cookbook. These are my personal ones. I didn't buy any extra ones. So I don't have it. I only have the How Not to Diet one for sale. Walnuts. I didn't bring that recipe, but I think it's better than these because we're talking about lentils. I did lentils, you know. We can have another one and we can talk about, you know, that one if you want.
What do you think about staying away from all bread?
Staying away from, he's asking a question, what about staying away from all bread, meaning wheat? Because a lot of people are allergic to gluten, the protein in wheat. If you're allergic to gluten, obviously that's a good thing to do. If you're not allergic to gluten, I think bread is an okay food as long as it's whole grain. And when you say whole grain, you mean the whole thing, like you took the wheat berry and grind it up and bake that. And when you do that, it's heavy. The bread is heavy and dense. It's not. Make your own. Yeah. Yeah, and you buy them online from the people who sell grain, you know, and I haven't seen them there. Does Roswell Seed sell them?
Yeah, because the bread at the store, I think it's,
Right. I agree with you, Jim. I don't think it's the most healthy choice. It'd be better if we made our own bread and used the whole germ, the whole seed of the wheat. Well, there's tests that you can take to find out if you are, but you usually have symptoms of GI distress. You know, you get inflammation, and there's blood tests that can tell if you have that allergy too. Okay, are we? What else shall we talk about? Anybody questions? Yes.
You know how it says that milk is not very good for you? Is the almond milk good for you?
Yes. Yes.
A lot of people talk about the lectins.
Lectins. Yeah.
That's bad for you.
Yes, they do. You know, I like to grow a plant on my property because it's poisonous to ground animals and nematodes. Brenda's father told me about it, the castor bean plant. And they're beautiful. They grow about this tall, and this time of year they have orange spiky seed pods on them. But the seed is extremely poisonous, and it's because of a lectin called ricin. And another bean that's similar is red kidney beans. Red kidney beans have a lectin in them that is poisonous if you eat the bean raw. But I don't know anybody who eats raw kidney beans, do you? And when you cook them, it inactivates the lectins. So as long as you cook your beans well, lectins are not a problem. And if you look across the world in the blue zones, you know, you've heard about these places where people live the longest, beans are usually their main source of food.
Right. So the lectins that people talk about being bad for you, they've been cooked, so they're inactivated.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, the kidney bean, I think it takes about 30 minutes to inactivate that lectin, but you usually cook it longer than that because it'll be hard, you know. And the few cases where we found that out was where they did improper cooking of the bean and served it, and people got sick. But, yeah, it's not a problem. Another question?
Is it true that whole wheat has more sugar than white bread?
Whole wheat? More sugar? I don't know the answer to that. I would think white would have more because the whole wheat has the fiber and the germ, so that would dilute the calories.
Do you just read the label or what?
Yes, we got to read the labels to see how much, you know, kilocalories of this and that is in there, and grams. Like we said, it'd probably be best to make your own, but that's a lot of effort. You got to grind it and cook it.
Is golden raisins better for you than the purple one?
I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, I know it has less calories than that.
I don't know. They probably have different qualities, and they're each good in their own way. The resveratrol in the skin of the grape is really, really good for our heart, and I think that's more in the red one than it is the green one.
It said it had 140 for the purple one, and then it said 120 for the golden.
So they're less caloric.
I mean, would that be better?
You know, each fruit and vegetable has its own personality, if you will, or its own assortment of phytochemicals, like leafy greens. You know, if you want to be healthy, eating leafy greens is probably one of the best changes a person can make, because the lutein, the yellow pigment, the carotenoid that's in the leafy greens, our body puts right into the center of our eye, and that helps you prevent macular degeneration, helps you see better. But a new study came out that is really important for your brain. You know, it's an antioxidant, and our brain's very busy, and they've shown that it would decrease Alzheimer's, slow down the aging of your brain. So leafy greens, and leafy greens are good for your heart too. They're good for our skin, everything.
Which one is that?
Leafy greens. So you had leafy greens in the soup, and in the lentil loaf there was parsley in there, and the soup had cilantro in it. Those are both have the lutein in it, but the highest ones are kale and spinach and parsley and cilantro. The dark green leafies have the most. Corn has some lutein, green beans has some lutein, avocado has lutein, but it's not as high as in the leafy greens. You have?
About peanut butter. What would you say about peanut butter?
I learned something very interesting about peanut butter. When I was, huh?
It's poison.
You know, if you eat the whole peanut, it's better because you see it doesn't have fungus on it, that it's whole and it's good. But they take the peanuts that are more likely to have that mold on it that they get, and that makes an aflatoxin that's toxic to our liver.
That's peanuts?
Peanut butter. In fact, in this book that I was recommending, the China study, but T. Colin Campbell was asked to figure out why some of these children in China were dying from liver cancer, and that was the answer. They were eating a peanut butter in a higher rate, and they were also eating a higher protein diet, which we talked about, that helps cause cancer. So peanut butter's not the best choice. I love peanut butter. It tastes good, but it's not good for us, maybe.
Well, I know that peanuts might have mold, but I also know that cashews have mold.
Oh, yeah. Anything can have mold. Your bread can have mold, yeah.
The other nuts like almond and
You know, I think you can see it. You can see if the nut is whole and looks healthy, you know it doesn't have mold on it.
almond butter, but I don't know.
Yeah, and that might be the same thing. You know, anytime we process something, we're going from good to worse. You know, we're going from better to good to worse. So, be better to make your own peanut butter. I think that's why you see in some of the stores they'll have a grinder and you can grind your own peanut butter right there, right? And that's probably one of the reasons that motivated that. Don?
Cashews and peanuts are not nuts.
Good point. That's right. Peanuts are a legume, and they're prone to a fungus because they're grown underground, right? And so when they're harvested, they're probably more moist.
They're just
A fruit.
product.
They're a fruit.
They're not in a shell, and they're picked by growers, by people that pick them, and their hands aren't always clean, because if they have to go to the bathroom, they go out there in the field.
Ben, you have a question?
That is,
What do you use in place of peanut butter? Grind your own. You can make your own. You like peanut butter too? I do too. I love peanut butter. My favorite breakfast is banana and peanut butter. Oh boy, that as long as it has enough salt in it. That's perfect breakfast for me. Well, I'll get her first and then I'll get you.
What did you say about molasses? Isn't that what people used to use?
Molasses. You know, my grandmother lived to be 97 years old, and you know what she ate for breakfast? She'd make a hot drink with a spoon of molasses in it, and her own bread her own wheat bread that she made. That's what she ate for breakfast. She'd dunk her bread in the molasses water and eat that. But Dr. Greger, the one from this book, the How Not to Diet, he researches the literature and presents what he finds from the scientific literature, and he said the only sugars that have any nutrition in them at all, the number one is the date. So date sugar and dates are a wonderful way, like if you're making smoothies and you want to be healthy, put dates instead of anything else, or molasses. Molasses has a little bit of nutrition in it. But even honey and agave, they're mostly just sugar. You know, they're a healthier form maybe, but they're still just sugar. But molasses and dates have some nutrition.
What about monk?
I don't know anything about monk fruit, but they're putting it in these drinks. I noticed that. What do you know about monk fruit?
Just that it's a plant-based sugar.
Yeah. I don't know. Haven't heard much about monk fruit. But they must think it's healthy if they're putting it in their drink, because they have they have erythritol is the sweetener that they're using, and Dr. Greger said that's the safest artificial sugar if you're going to use an artificial sugar, erythritol. Yeah.
You know anything about beets? Because
Yeah.
years ago I started eating, not just, the super beets, it's about 6 beets all combined. And it definitely dropped blood pressure.
Yeah.
About 15 points, 15
Yeah.
or 20 points dropping your blood pressure,
Beets
which is a good deal.
Beets are one of the healthiest foods you can eat. They're a root vegetable. They are the number one anti-cancer vegetable that I'm aware of. And when we metabolize them, it releases nitric oxide that helps dilate our blood vessels. And it helps fuel your muscles. So they've found out that athletes can perform better when they ingest beets.
My workouts are better if I have so I'm eating about 12 of them a day.
Yeah.
But I don't eat, like we're not going to eat them. Nobody's going to eat 12 beets. So that super beets is in powder. So just 2 glasses a day.
Yeah.
I also heard that beets are really good for females during that time of the month because they're high in iron.
I haven't heard that, but they have the nitric oxide, which helps dilate blood vessels. That might help too. Yeah. They are definitely good for us. Anything, in nature, when you see the bright colors on the foods, it's kind of an indication they've got a lot of nutrition. Pomegranates, beets, dark leafy greens, tomatoes. When they've got a bright color on them, they've got a carotenoid in there that is good for us. And it's attractive. It makes you want to eat it, right? It looks attractive.
Do you have a recipe? Because I noticed that in Europe they make this soup out of beets.
Borscht. Borscht. It's a Russian or Eastern European food. That is so good for you. Yeah, they make strings of like what do you call that? Julienne. The way they cut the vegetable, it's in a long, thin piece of the beets and cook it. You know what? I saw one. I think it's in this one. Let's see if I can turn to it real quick. I think I saw one in here. I was flipping through it. I think it's called borscht. How do you spell borscht? Yeah, page 10. Wait till I read you the ingredients. You'll want to make it. There it is.
Let me see. Can I see it?
Borscht. Yeah, it has dill in it. Red onions, garlic, celery, parsnip, carrot, 3 beets, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, 6 cups of vegetable broth, savory cabbage, dried marjoram, a bay leaf, Dr. Greger's special spice blend, whatever that is, black pepper, and dill, 1/4 a cup of minced fresh dill. That's a lot of dill. And 1 to 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. Yeah. Beets. Lots of beets. Yeah. You want to look at it?
Because when I was in high school, I went to Ukraine, and there's a big difference between Russian and Ukrainian borscht
Really?
and American borscht.
What's the difference?
Well, in Ukraine, they don't chunk it up or puree it. What they do is they take the beets, they wash them, the fresh beets, wash them, and then they mince them on the smallest side of the grater, and they put them in. So you never see the
You don't even know it's in there. It's just red fluid.
just purplish red. See, because this has
The chunks in it. Yeah.
big difference between American borscht and Russian borscht.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is his style borscht. You can mainly see the cabbage and you see a couple chunks of beets. Yeah. But you can see that our choices are endless to be healthy. You know, if you think about it, if you just eat chicken McNuggets all the time, it's kind of boring. Right? It's bland. You got to have the sauce to liven it up. Isn't that true? You know, the one thing that helped me quit eating cheese, you know, cheese, I'm half Italian, the ricotta, the mozzarella, the provolone, oh, it was so good. Yeah, cottage cheese. Ricotta is kind of the Italian cottage cheese. Yeah, I loved it. And then one day I was in the grocery store at a health food store and there was saltless cheese. And I thought, wow, that's probably more healthy. I'll buy saltless cheese. So I bought it. Oh, it was so disgusting. It let me know what cheese tastes like, you know, because if you think about it, cheese is salty. It's salty and oily. And I started realizing if I just put olive oil and salt, I'm fine. I don't want that cheese stuff, man. It tasted so bad. Try it. If you can find some saltless cheese, I dare you. Buy it and eat it. You won't be able to eat more than, you'll spit it out. I spit it out. It was so bad. So, you know, it's the salt and the oil that we're after, I think, in cheese. And they have some pretty decent vegan cheese imitations. Have you tried them? There's one called Chow. It's made in Greece. It's a light yellow color. You can buy it at Walmart. It's where the tofu and the veganese is. When you go in, there's the produce section, and you walk all the way down on the right, and there's the tofu and the fake cheese, and the veganese is there. So if you want to try some of these things, you'll find them.
You mentioned that avocados are good fat.
Yes.
Okay, what else is besides
Good fat. Okay, that's a good thing to talk about. Thank you for asking that. Nuts are probably the best source of fat we can eat because they're packaged in fiber. And you can eat a lot of them and not really absorb all those calories. I'm aware of a study they did where they fed people. They had a control group and the study group where they ate raw almonds. And I think it was 12 ounces. That's like, you know, that's more than a cup of almonds a day. And at the end of the study, those that were thin, that needed to gain weight, gained some weight. And those that needed to lose weight actually lost some weight. So the fiber in the almond is protective. So I eat a lot of nuts. I'm a nut. Those of you who know me know I'm growing some pistachio trees, and pistachio nuts are extremely healthy. I can tell you some crazy things about pistachio nuts. They have a chemical in them that kills H. pylori that causes stomach ulcers. So if you want to inhibit getting a stomach ulcer, pistachio nuts have something in it. They also have lutein in it. They have that little green color, so they've got some lutein. And they're good for diabetics. They are satisfying. They're crunchy. You really feel like you got to snack, right? If you eat pistachios, you really feel satisfied. And it's true, it satisfies you, and you don't eat as many calories as you would.
But I'm talking
You're absolutely right. You're not supposed to snack in between meals. So you would eat it with your meal, maybe as your dessert. You know, or with salads. Yeah, they'd be really good with salads. I agree. And pomegranates. Oh, that'd be so good. My grandfather smoked, and he quit smoking, and the way he did it is carried pistachio nuts in his pocket, and he'd be cracking his pistachio nuts and eating them, instead of smoking. But you're right. You're not supposed to eat in between meals. That's a good question. Probably you could look at the serving list and see how many calories and kind of figure out how many you want to eat. That would be a good suggestion, because usually if you do like I do, I eat one and one and one and keep going. Yeah, so it'd probably be a good idea to count how many nuts are a serving and eat that many.
Does fiber slow down sugar absorption?
Yes. Fiber, usually we talk about fiber relating to cholesterol. Let's talk about that, and it fits in with what you asked. She's asking, does fiber slow down your absorption of sugar? And
You eat the orange, not the orange juice.
right, and I'm also going to add why it helps with cholesterol too. You're probably aware that our body makes cholesterol. Cholesterol is a very important backbone of a lot of the hormones like vitamin D and our other sex hormones and our life hormones like cortisol. And our body makes it, so we don't need to eat it. Where do we get it? You know the answer to that. We get it from meat, cheese, eggs, milk, animal products, because they need cholesterol to live too. But we don't need to eat any of that because our body makes it. And cholesterol is really made to carry the fat around in the blood. Oil and water don't mix, right? So when we eat oil, what happens to it in our bloodstream? It's the LDLs and the VLDLs and the HDLs that carry it around in the bloodstream. So our cholesterol helps carry the fat around in our body. So the more fat we eat, the more cholesterol we need. The more animal products we eat, the more fat we eat, and the more cholesterol we need, and the more cholesterol we're getting. So it's like a never-ending scale of raising our cholesterol. And years ago we used to think 200 cholesterol was average. It was normal, and that's exactly how they came to that idea. They just measured everybody, and 200 was average, so they said that's a healthy cholesterol. And then we found out, no, that's a average way to die. The American populace is dying of heart attacks, and so you're right in there with the rest of them. No, and we found out it's got to be lower, and they lowered it to 180, and then they lowered it to 150. We now know that 150 is more like a healthy cholesterol. And in this Chinese study book, he talks about how some of the Chinese have cholesterols of 90 and 80, and we used to think that was unhealthy. It's actually not unhealthy. That's just the level of the amount of fat they're eating. But anyhow, so the fiber that we eat binds the cholesterol and carries it out of our body. So one of the treatments for high cholesterol was red rice bran. You've heard that probably, right? Or oat bran. Remember when they used to talk about that? So the more fiber we eat, it helps lower our cholesterol. And the same with the sugar. That's why it's recommending, did you read, let's see what number it is. Let's see. It's number 2. Eat your vegetables and salad types foods first before your carbohydrate foods, as this will slow down the absorption of the carbohydrate foods. So the plant walls don't let you absorb every little calorie there. Like same with the almonds. You're chewing that up and getting the fat, but some of it's caught up in the fiber and going to not be digested completely. So same idea. So eating the whole plant's better than if it's refined.
What about oatmeal cookies?
Oatmeal cookies? Yum. What about them?
Another good type of fiber food is the chia seed.
Yes. And that's what we...
It's a really good breakfast cereal.
Yeah, I like to put it in my non-dairy yogurt for breakfast. That's a really good breakfast. Yeah, and you can make puddings. That was some of the pictures we showed at church were chia puddings. Yeah. What about oatmeal cookies?
Oatmeal cookies and you're putting oatmeal, walnuts.
Yeah, that's more of a healthy cookie than a chocolate chip cookie.
Use the molasses or the dates, and it will be nutritious instead of the empty sugar.
Right. Use a better type of sugar.
Dates,
And
you can cut them up really tiny, and then they'll kind of melt in there with it, and it will just be sweet. It won't have a weird taste at all.
Can you get dates at Albertsons?
yeah, they have some good, and Sam's. They had some really good medjool dates. We bought 2 of them because they look so good. And you can buy date sugar too, but again, that's processed. It's better to use the date, and you see what you're getting. Yeah.
Lower the fat, because cookies have a lot of butter. Probably do some applesauce or something instead of much oil.
Right. You and I were talking about that with zucchini bread. We decided zucchini bread was just too oily, and
It's a great egg replacer. It lists on a lot of recipes. You can use chia as an egg replacer too.
Yeah, but for oil,
No,
we're talking about like when you're baking like a zucchini bread, you can substitute the oil with applesauce, and it'll still give that moisture without all that high calorie fat.
What do you say about pumpkin?
Pumpkin, a very healthy food. Yeah, I was going to make a pumpkin pie for us, but I didn't have time. And I was going to use dates as the sweetener and nut milk as the milk, and then just the spices, and it turns out great. Or you can put in a little flour because sometimes it won't set up as good as you want it to.
What could you put in there besides milk?
Almond milk, oat milk, any kind of milk, nut milk, soy milk. Yeah, nowadays it's easy to be a plant-based eater. 20 years ago, it wasn't like this, but now you can go to the store and you can buy all these, nut milks and oat milks and.
Yeah, when I was a kid, my grandparents had to order all this stuff.
Right,
You could just go to your local grocery store and find a lot of it.
right. It's getting easier.
I had read that Brazil nuts, one Brazil nut a day gives you all the selenium that your body needs.
That's right. I think it's more like 2. Two Brazil nuts will give you the selenium you need for a day.
Wesley, he loves nuts. I would eat my Brazil nut, and he would say, nut. I said, you're a baby, you don't need no nuts. Nut. He's got a mouthful of teeth, so I give him one. And he chews them up, and he likes them all. He doesn't care for peanut butter, but he likes Brazil, and I have macadamia. And he loves pistachio. His mother buys them in a bag, and she has to hide them because he'll sit. And walnuts and almonds, raw. All of those raw.
You're making me think of, I love Brazil nuts too. I buy them from Sunnyland Farms, and they're pretty fresh, and keep them around and snack on them, do 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 a day. But if you make your own nut milk, I think Brazil nut milk tastes the most like real milk, if you want it to. If you've ever done that. I've done that. I've made Brazil nut milk, and it's delicious. It tastes good. It tastes a lot.
I never have tried the Brazil.
It tastes a lot like real milk, I think,
Yeah.
if you want that. Yeah.
I think that's good for your thyroid too, isn't it? For selenium?
Yes. So, and a lot of our grounds are deplete in minerals. So it's good if we know these things, and I think that's what these are about. Trying to get natural minerals. I don't think they list the minerals. Green mineral proprietary herb blend. So they're not telling us what they're after, but that's got the nettle, the oats, the alfalfa. Remember I talked about the alfalfa goes down 30 feet and gets all the minerals. So it's not a good thing to go get minerals. 20 years ago, that's what people were doing, going and getting minerals and taking them. That's very dangerous because one mineral can offset another. Like if you take too much zinc, it can drop your copper down, or so In the eye vitamins that they make, you'll read it. It'll say, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc, and copper. Well, that's because they don't want to take the zinc and drive your copper down. So they're balancing it. So I think that's what this is about, to get a good blend of minerals and do it safely.
So what about if you were gonna take a mineral or a vitamin, do you say like a multivitamin is better than the minerals and vitamins alone?
Yeah, but I'll tell you a story and you can draw your own conclusions, because it's my field. I know about it. With eyes, they did a study. They said, I wonder if antioxidants are good for macular degeneration. So they just said, well, let's take vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, and they knew zinc was involved, so they did that formula and found that macular degeneration was delayed by about 35%, which is good. And they said, hey, this works. And they made the AirReds formula, and they put it out there, and they sell it for a lot of money, and it's expensive. And then later they found out that lutein, the yellow pigment in leafy greens that we're talking about, is good too. So they added that, and it's called AirReds 2 formula. That's even better, right? But back in 1994, that's a while ago now, a lady named Joanna Seddon at Harvard did a study on blood levels of the carotenoids, lutein, the yellow pigment, just from food. And the people that were in the highest quintiles of lutein in their blood had 88% less progression of their macular degeneration. So I'm not too keen on vitamins. I mean, sometimes we need it. If we're low on something, we're deficient, then we can take the vitamin like a medicine to replace it. But if we're eating the foods, the leafy greens, the nuts, the seeds, the legumes, the grains, we're going to get enough, especially if we grow our own. I'm ultimately a gardener. I think all of us should have a garden and grow our own food and eat out of our garden. But that's another topic. But if we're eating the foods, and like green smoothies, when my patients come in and want to know what to do about their macular degeneration, the classic thing for me as an ophthalmologist is to tell them, take the AirReds formula. Here's a sample. Go try that. Costs a lot of money, and it doesn't have B vitamins. And B vitamins have been shown to be good for your retina. So I tell them, take a multivitamin with lutein, but I have something better for you. And I give them a list of 3 green smoothies. Now, hear me out. I saw you go, ah. Have you ever been to a Jamba Juice?
Yep, and I never get a green smoothie.
You know what? They have one that's really good. I forget the name of it, but they're really good. Okay, but I have my own green smoothies. Okay, so try it out. Blackberries, avocado, spinach, and coconut water. And blend that up with a little ice. And you can buy frozen avocado so that it's part of the smoothie cool thing, and makes it creamy and cold. It's delicious. It's delicious. It's a little kind of purpley green color, but forget the color. It tastes great, and it's got fantastic. The berries are good for your retina too. So the berries, the spinach, the avocado, and the coconut milk has a lot of minerals in it. So that's a super, super good smoothie. Okay, I got 2 more, and then I'll get you. Then there's simply kale and coconut pineapple juice. And put some ice in there if you want. It looks green, but it tastes just like a pina colada. No problem. It's good. Kale, coconut, pineapple juice. And maybe ice if you want to, make it icy. That's another one. And I'll tell you a story about that. I had a lady she had macular degeneration. Her mother went blind from macular degeneration. She said, what can I do? I said, why don't you do that every day? So she did that every day. She was a good patient. She actually did it. And she had osteopenia, and they were checking her bone density. And the person checking her said, what did you do? And she said, I didn't do anything different. And he said, yeah, you did something different. You're gaining calcium. And she thought about it, and she said, oh, yeah, Dr. Melgren put me on that kale smoothie thing, and she was gaining calcium in her bones from
Kale, coconut, and
pineapple juice and water, and just blend. And when you do that, you blend it up so there is not one piece of kale in there. It's just green liquid.
should you buy the pineapple juice from
that's a lot of trouble. I just buy the juice at the store. I mean, if you want to be an idealist, you should get your coconut, husk it, get the coconut out.
First you gotta find what you get the coconut.
What was the first one? Blackberry, avocado, spinach, coconut.
Water or, yeah, water, coconut water. And then the third one, are you ready for the third one? It's spinach, white grape juice, lime juice, and ice. And blend that up, and it's delicious. And you're saturating yourself with lutein. Lutein, probably the healthiest food you could eat. Or you can make soup.
What can you substitute for spinach with?
Kale.
And I can't do those two.
How about beet greens or turnip greens or collards or Swiss chard?
Yeah, you could do the beets or the,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Any leafy.
Lime juice, like that you buy in the produce section that comes in a little bottle.
Yeah, you could juice your own lime. You know what I found? I found at, I think it was at Sam's, crystallized lemon and lime. So it's in a packet and you just dump it in, and then you don't have to worry about juicing it. And yeah, that's probably not as healthy because it's processed, but yeah, that's another option. Okay, I said I can.
Say about coconut flakes.
Coconut flakes? Are they made with sugar? She's asking about coconut flakes. Yeah, if they don't have sugar added to them, you know, they're probably a good food. Coconut, you all know the story about World War II when they ran out of plasma for their injured soldiers. They just hook them up to coconut water. You can put coconut water right in your veins. Yep, because it has minerals and it would hydrate them. You know, yeah. So, but like anything, coconut's a high-fat food, and it's a saturated fat, so we should probably be, you know, careful. But the water, I don't think, has too much fat in it. It's the meat of the coconut that has more of the fat. So we did a lot of talking about things to do to be healthy, to supplement our nutrition. You know, talking about that, this Michael Greger, I told you he has a book, How Not to Die, right? And he talks about the leading causes of death in America, what they're from and why, and what are the remedies for it. It's a really good book. And then he came out with this book, How Not to Diet, so that we just eat so that we're healthy. But he's a fanatic about trying to get more nutrition. Like he talks about, well, instead of drinking water, you can drink tea, and that way you can get some nutrition. He probably would really like these products here. But always trying to, instead of thinking about food as we do the taste, the experience, think about it as your life sustenance, right? Eat to live, not live to eat. Yeah, and that's kind of like a thing we all got to do, and you know, and he's just a fanatic about trying to get more nutrition. And I think that we all could be like that a little bit.
He's on YouTube.
Yeah, you can just nutritionfacts.org, and he has a daily video. I highly recommend it because what he's saying is based in the scientific literature, what's coming out. You know, there's so much health fad information out there, keto this, you know, your blood type this, all this different information out there, and it's confusing, and it shouldn't be. It's so simple. We just got to eat the whole foods the way God made them. And what the thing I like about Dr. Greger is he reads the scientific literature. I don't even think he's a believer, but it's all supporting how I read my Bible says what God tells us we should eat. And he doesn't have an axe to grind. You know, he's just trying to promote truth. His grandmother, I'll tell you his story a little bit. His grandmother was dying of heart disease, and I think she already had 2 vessels done, and they told her she needed a heart surgery, and she didn't want to do it. So she went to Nathan Pritikin, and he was promoting a diet a lot like we're talking about today, a plant-based whole food diet. And she thought, well, what do I have to lose? She went on it, And in a couple weeks, she was walking, a mile, and she was cured. He saw that as a young person, and he realized, wow, lifestyle's powerful. And he went into the field he's in. He works for the Humane Society. Everything he does is given to charity. He's not bought out by any companies or anything. So he's just talking about what the science is telling. So I highly recommend that, nutritionfacts.org, and listen to his daily videos. Subscribe to him, and the more you know, the more you want to do, nutritionfacts.org.
He's on Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not Facebook, YouTube.
There,
Probably both.
yeah.
What do you say about iodine?
Iodine is on the periodic table. It's an element that we need. And I think that's why Asians are so healthy. They eat seafood, which has iodine in it, and I think most of us are probably deficient. It's also a very good way to sterilize things in medicine. We use it as the, preps before surgery. And I know during the COVID outlet that a lot of people were selling misting iodine, so you mist the air and breathe it in so that your nostrils have a little layer of iodine in there to kill the bacteria. And it makes sense. It's scientific. Yeah.
Do you know of a food that's high in copper? Because it seems like we get a lot of zinc, like, I think doesn't airborne have zinc, and like your elderberry zinc,
Emergency.
yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like all those that you take to try to keep from getting colds and flus.
I'd have to look it up. I don't know.
I haven't thought about that.
Yeah, that we're taking. I know. Yeah, I was popping zinc lozenges to kind of prevent COVID and all that. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. We'll have to look it up.
It probably depends on the soil it was grown in too.
And that's the thing. I think a lot of our soils are deficient and the plants are deficient. Yeah. So I think it's good that we buy food from all over the world because it's getting all mixed up. Maybe they don't have the problem our soil has. It's not all bad.
From harvard.edu, nuts, seeds, as well as whole grains and chocolate have copper in them.
Thank you for that. So nuts, grains, seeds, and chocolate have copper.
Sugary chocolate.
Oh, I got it. Okay, I'll tell you something else. Since we brought up chocolate, chocolate has good and bad. I remember my uncle, he was in medical school, and he was telling my mother, years ago, chocolate's good and bad, the sugar and the fat's bad, but the chocolate actually has some really good things in it. Copper, we just learned. But it lowers your blood pressure. There's an island in Central America where they drink 5 cups of cocoa a day. That's their coffee. They don't sweeten it, so they drink it bitter, You can get used to it, maybe, maybe. And I saw a face there. But that's what they do. That's their custom, their culture. And nobody has hypertension there.
So does that have to be a specific cocoa?
That's a good question. No, you can just go buy the Hershey's cocoa.
Like the baking cocoa,
Yeah,
not the stuff that has sugar and stuff.
right. The dry baking cocoa. And make a hot drink and drink it. So I'll tell you a story. The way I learned this was, it's in the medical literature, but the way I learned it was I had this patient. He was so cute, so smart, very elderly, but boy, was he sharp as a tack. And he told me this story. He said, I couldn't get my blood pressure down. And the doctor kept giving me all these pills, and they made me sick, and it didn't work, and I was just so frustrated. And then I read that cocoa and lycopene, which is the red pigment in tomatoes, you had some lycopene in the soup today, will lower blood pressure. And he said, so I tried it. And I went into my doctor, and my doctor said, he took my blood pressure and said, what are you doing? Because his blood pressure was down. And he was so elated, and he said, I'm taking cocoa and lycopene. And the doctor leaned over and whispered, I am too. But it's in the medical literature that cocoa will lower blood pressure. So, if you ever feel uptight, do you ever feel sometimes when you're under stress, like me, for getting ready for this, I need a little something extra, I drink a cup of cocoa, and it kind of helps relax me.
Just the
The cook
powdered cocoa that has no sugar?
Hershey's dark cocoa. Yeah, I think has the green spoon, or it has green on it. That's the one.
You
That's
just add that with hot water?
it's a little bitter. You can
Lycopene?
lycopene is the carotenoid in tomatoes and strawberries and watermelon. It's the red pigment in foods. And it's another, there are about 200 carotenoids. Carotenoids are plant chemicals that make the fruit beautiful, like the purple eggplant and yeah. And we need those. And so we should eat a variety of vegetables, and then we're getting all that. We don't have to name them all or take a test on it or a quiz. We just get them by eating them, right? And it's not hard.
Can you talk just a little bit about non-GMO and GMO and organic?
Okay. Um, the question is, what about GMO, non-GMO, and organic foods? Well, I used to think it didn't make a difference with organic foods. I'll talk about that first. I thought a food's a food, who cares? Until I looked at a article where they grew organic pears compared to commercial pears, and on and on and on. Fruit, wheat and corn and all kinds of fruits and vegetables, and it stunned me because the minerals that were in the organic were all the good minerals. They were high in the good minerals, and the minerals that were in the commercially grown had arsenic and cadmium and lead and all these toxic minerals in higher amounts. And I was a believer after that because that's what the science said.
The organic is just grown as is, it doesn't have a lot of pesticides used on it?
Right,
What organic is?
right. So, they have their rules. I had to certify my avocado farm as organic. And so you can't use anything that's labeled as non-organic. So when you look at the fertilizers and all the things that you put on there, because I did put fish fertilizer on my avocado trees, the liquid form, but it was natural. It didn't have anything added into it. So anything, and they have their labels and their rules, and maybe not all of it's pristine, but and maybe some organic growers don't follow all the rules, so the idea is grow your own, and then you know what you put on it. That's the ideal, but if you can't do that, then buy organic is definitely better than just eating the non-organic. And then the GMO, genetically modified food, I think is dangerous. I think we don't know the ramifications of it. When I read that they were putting jellyfish genes into corn, because jellyfish change color, right? So they put jellyfish in genes in corn so that when it's wilting, it changes color, so you can really tell when it's wilting, before it falls over. And so they'd know when to water. I thought that's just not natural.
I had an article that was in our paper several years ago about how they crossed potatoes with jellyfish.
Jellyfish are poison.
That's right. They some of them lethal poisons. Yeah, man of war's lethally poisoned. Yeah, I don't have any scientific articles to say exactly why it isn't good. I think probably Gregor, we could probably go on nutritionfacts.org and put that in and find out some more scientific facts than I'm going to give today.
What effects does vitamin C have on sugar? In other words, if you intake, the more sugar you intake, is it necessary to take more vitamin C?
I don't know. I can answer. She's asking if the more sugar you eat, does it affect your vitamin C levels? And I know it's true with B vitamins because your body metabolizes sugar with B vitamin. And so if you don't have enough B vitamins, it's bad. The more sugar you take, the more, and I think that's what caused the hyperactivity in kids. Their brain is irritated from too much sugar.
The B vitamin, you
Brewer's yeast, yeah. The nutritional
And
yeast.
they sell that at Walmart.
Yeah, and at Alberts, I saw it on Albertsons. Yeah, they have it there too. Yeah, she's talking about nutritional yeast being a good source of B vitamins, and that's, and
Quite a high amount, that's important. And it's an earthy flavor if you want.
I like,
It tastes like it's got cheese on it, that will make it taste like.
that's right, the
I put that on
nutritional.
my popcorn.
I was just going to say that. That's how I like to make my popcorn. You air dry it so you're not frying it, and then you drizzle on a little brewer's yeast and salt and maybe a little olive oil. Oh, that's perfect. It's delicious. Yeah.
Tastes like there's cheese on it.
Yeah, it does. I think so too. I like that. Yeah. But I don't know about the vitamin C. I'd have to look that up. Yeah. So, okay, we're almost to 5. Jim?
Well, my wife is from Borneo, Malaysia. Her dad is 106 years old. Well, he comes from an organic vegetable farm. He owns an organic, it's all organic, and he's 106. So,
You're,
that's what you're going to be talking about.
Jim just said his father-in-law has an organic vegetable farm, and he's 106 years old. That's good epidemiology support for a whole plant food, organic food lifestyle right there, you know? Yeah. So if we can all grow our own gardens, we'll have so much we'll have to share with other people. That's what I'm working up to. I'll definitely be able to share pistachio nuts, and someday I'll get my garden revved up where I can share out of there too. So do you have good ideas about what to do? Getting some ideas? It's challenging because our lifestyle, you know, you go out to eat. Oh, I was glad I had the Cattle Baron bag. I thought somebody's going to say, why do you have a Cattle Baron bag? Because you can eat healthy out. You just have to know what to do. Like, you can go to Dion's and get a cheeseless pizza with a vegetable cheeseless pizza is a pretty good choice, and their salad, you know. And at Cattle Baron, you can go to the salad bar, right? And you can be careful what you pick. I like going there. I like their salad bar. And the Pasta Cafe, you can make good choices there too. Get the salad with the Italian dressing, and you know, you can have the bread and pasta. They have a lunch one, Florentine, where they have tomatoes and spinach on it, you know, and my husband likes the eggplant parmesan, hold the cheese. I mean, you can make choices like that that are better. And it's not perfect. You're eating out, so you know there's oil in the food and whatnot. But you can make good choices even though you're out. But it's best to cook at home and know what's in your food. Then you know what's in there.
Well, what about the white bean? Is the white bean just as good?
I think white beans are just as good. They say the most nutritious is the black bean. But I'm sure white beans are good too. They have isoflavones and plant chemicals in there that support our health. Yeah. I remember not too long ago, I have a cousin who's a bean processor, and they were really into the science that they came out about the isoflavones, because they were saying beans are the new blueberry. You know, you talk about how blueberries are so good for you, but beans too have a lot of chemicals in them that support our health. So, yeah, I think they're just as good. I love that white bean soup with escarole. That Italian type soup is so good. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? I want you to all come up and pick recipes. I made recipes for you all. I think there's enough for all of us here. And if you want to get a book, let me know. And I'm so glad you came out, and I hope it's helpful to you. I hope it makes a difference. And you can feel better and live longer and help other people. Tell other people. You know, when they see what you're eating, you know, one time I was on a plane and I got the vegetarian, you know, and everybody's like, how come you got that? What do you got? You know, and you tell them, well, it's vegetarian, you know, and you can start up a conversation and tell them.
Years ago, I went on a cruise and I asked them if I could have vegetarian.